Hi, everyone.
Good evening, and other times of day as well.
I actually don't know what time of day it is anymore.
Neither do I.
Oh, man. I see some people that I know and see some people that I don't know. So thank you, everyone, for coming to our panel. You had
We're
many...
here for writing interactive stories that pack a punch. If you came here for something else, you're in the wrong place.
You had many choices of where to be on this 10 p.m. Evening time, and I'm glad that you're choosing to spend it with us.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll make this hour and 25 minutes worth your while. It's going to be a little bit of a lecture. It's going to be a little bit of an interactive thing. So I'm excited to share all of this with y'all. All right, so let's just dive into it. In this workshop, you're going to learn the core equation to make emotional stories, how to use meaningful choices to make a branching narrative, and how to make a prototype of your own interactive story. And we're going to be doing this together with you on a digital whiteboarding tool, which we will share later. But first, let us introduce ourselves. I'm CJ. I use they, them pronouns, and
I'm Mabbies. I use he, him.
I'm a designer by day and a game developer by night. I originally came from Texas. Howdy, y'all. And I reside in Tokyo, Japan. So it is noon, lunchtime right now.
Yeah.
And I've been doing game development since about 2005, and I'm a proud Fujian.
I've been doing game development for about as long. I'm also in Japan. And I'm also 3 bunnies in a trench coat. Sometimes I poke buttons on keyboards and it turns into code. And that code turns into games. For example, this game.
We made a game. It's a nostalgic interactive fiction that follows the lives of 4 fangirls and their roleplay community on LimeJournal over the course of a year in the early 2000s. It's about friendship, it's about love, it's about loss. It's also out now on Steam and itch.io. Both of those, both Steam and itch.io, they're on sale. So Steam is 40% off and itch.io is part of a big bundle called the Queer Games Bundle. So if you're interested, you should go get it. All right. So Terranova follows the lives of 4 girls, Tourmaline, Effie, Cherry, and Sandaria, and all of their friendships together. So Tourmaline and Effie know each other from school. Cherry and Sandaria are people that they meet online, and a beautiful friendship forms. So all of them have different relationships with each other. And they are also part of a role-playing community called Terranova.
Don't worry, there will not be a quiz later. But we do bring it up because we're going to use this as some examples in our later slides.
That's true, yes. So the characters that they play are Eitan, Isaiah, Dominique, and Hikaru, respectively. And each decision that the player makes, both in IM chat and in roleplay, affects their friendship with the girls. So the player character is playing as Tourmaline / Eitan, and they're interacting with different people in this universe. Now, as you might have already guessed, 4 people in the real world and 4 people in roleplay can get rather complicated story-wise. And that's why our master timeline looks a lot like this. So for those
this is a small fraction of the huge massive post-its we went through when playing this game.
Yes, yeah. And you might, just to understand the scale of this, like that top sort of bar there is our window. Well, like we papered the entire window with Post-it notes of this timeline. And then on the right-hand side was our dining table. So it was like the entire window and the entire dining table were taken up with Post-it notes. And the timeline on the left is about planning things out in full. So like sort of the eagle eye view. It takes place over the course of a year. So You have what's happening in November, December, January, etc. And then the dining room table post-it note collection was what is happening in the IMs and what's happening in the blogs as the player is moving through them. So I share this to say that this was a very complicated, like story-wise game to make. And that's part of the reason why we're going to talk to you today about.
So I'd like to think we learned a few things.
We did.
Doing all this planning process, and we're going to share some of them with you.
Exactly. And no, we're not going to make a giant master timeline where you're going to paper the walls, but you could. But every epic story starts from a series of small stories. So today we're going to help you build a small one so that you can help build your epic. And these are stories that you can use in visual novels, games, basically whatever you want to do that involves a player interacting with your game, like multiple choices, multiple endings. A reminder that the bulk of this workshop focuses on the writing process. We'd need an entirely separate workshop to cover how to use game engines. So we're going to help you build something that doesn't require you to touch code for now, but we are going to give you some resources about how to build visual novels and interactive fiction. All right. So first, the core equation for emotional storytelling. The core equation is, in order to spark an emotional reaction, you must first have a relatable character, somebody that you can root for, somebody that you're interested in. And then you have to make a promise. And a promise is something like setting an expectation for a character, something that you think that the character is going to go through. And then you're going to give them a payoff. Now, a payoff can be either satisfying or unsatisfying. And for those of you who attended the earlier today BL That Hurt Me panel, you probably have already seen examples of unsatisfying payoffs. So this is like when two people are meant to be together, end up dying, or when lovers can't make it work, or one person ends up disappointing the other person. It's still a payoff, but it may be an unsatisfying one for the player. So there's an extra piece here, investment, which we're going to get to later. So to kind of drive this home, I want us to take a look at a common fairy tale, Little Red Riding Hood. So let's take a look at Little Red Riding Hood. Why should we care about Little Red Riding Hood? Well, she's young and she's naive. Naivete is sort of a double-edged sword where we can remember that we were naive once. Like I was young once. I understand that, I went into the woods alone proverbially.
Sure.
I grew up feral once, but also this sort of desire to protect as well. And she also cares for her grandmother. She's generally like a good daughter in this story. The promise is that her mother tells her that the woods are dangerous, so we're expecting something dangerous to happen, and that she's going to meet her grandmother. And lo and behold, something dangerous does happen in the woods. Maybe not to her point of view, but she sees a wolf and she talks with the wolf. But then the next payoff, that she's going to meet her grandmother, is a bit of a twist, because she does actually meet her grandmother, but it's actually the wolf. Spoiler alert for Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah.
But this is an example of relatable characters, promises, and payoffs in a very popular fairy tale.
So, for example, if we wanted to, ruin the story, some of the ways to do that would be making a character that's not relatable at all, or taking away some of the payoffs. So if we wrote a story where Little Red was going to go meet her grandmother and she never did, what was the point of that story? It's not going to land the same way.
Or her mother tells her the woods are dangerous and we don't mention it ever again.
Right.
Yeah. This might be also a reason why you sometimes feel unfulfilled when you're reading a book or something that you had a promise in your mind that you were thinking that the character was going to do or get to, or some plot point, and then the author just completely drops it.
Yeah, so that's kind of a point I wanted to reiterate about payoffs. They're not necessarily the reaction that people expect. But to have a payoff, it needs to address the promise and not just leave it hanging.
Right. Exactly. All right. So are y'all ready for a workshop? I'm not sure how many people are here. We made slots for 20 people, but we will see.
Yeah. We're gonna head on over to the mural board.
That's right. So we're using something called Mural, which is a little digital whiteboard. It's bit.ly/Fujocon 2022. I'm going to put this up in the corner here for y'all. Oops, nope.
Back a slide.
Oh, no, back a slide. There we go.
Alrighty.
Oh, I can see some of you. Excellent. So as you're making your way into the room here, so on the left-hand side, you'll see that there's places to put sticky notes. And on the right-hand side, if you click this little guy right here, you can see an outline where you can get to each of the exercises. So we're going to start with...
Draw your attention to exercise 1.
Exercise 1. Before we do that... some of you might be seeing that there are little templates, little worksheets right down here. Feel free to snag one, put your name on it, and that'll be your workspace for the remainder of the workshop. I imagine that we're probably going to need maybe some more room.
So need some more room, yeah.
Yes, I'm just going to...
Go ahead and make us another row.
I'm going to make us another row.
All right.
Whoa.
Extra row.
Okay, there you go.
Looks good.
Anybody who is not is unable to find a workspace, they can go ahead and copy a workspace into. I'll give you a little bit of extra room, y'all. But feel free to put your name down. There we go. On the black Post-it note on the upper right-hand corner. Yes.
Upper left.
Sorry, upper left-hand corner. How do you zoom in? Okay. So on the lower right-hand corner here, there's this little thing that says zoom in. You can zoom in this way. You can press spacebar and drag to pan stuff around. Yep. I see some of you moving around your workspaces. My guess is that you're trying to move away. So press and hold your shift key and then pan around. And if you've got a fancy trackpad that supports multi-touch, you can use the pinch zoom thingy like you're on a Google Maps or something like that. Like so. Ta-da. Okay. Cool. So as we're doing that, let's go into exercise 1. So on the digital Post-it notes provided, we want you to write down the following. What is your character name? And what makes the reader root for them? And what are some things that they struggle at? And this is something that you'll be doing for 5 minutes. I'll set a timer for all of us. Yep. Before we get started, just a quick example. We did this for some of our characters. So Tourmaline is the player character, and one of the reasons that the player roots for them is because she shares a lot of the interests that you, the player, do. We'll talk a little bit more when we get into player choices, but we added a lot of player choices that let you kind of customize, I don't know, your experience and customize Tourmaline's experience. She's also kind of sheltered and naive. And like we said before, double-edged sword, but it's a relatable thing. She has a hard time talking openly and saying what she really means. And she also struggles with jealousy sometimes, or feeling left out. Cherry is another character that's your co-conspirator early on in the game. So that's a really good way for us to build that kind of rapport with the player. She's also very independent and smart. She has a hard time keeping friends, and she has a rough relationship with her parents and with her church. Yep. So what I want you to do is, I think, some of y'all have already figured this out, is there are some yellow Post-it notes here. And we are going to, I promise I won't pick on any of you. But using the yellow Post-it notes, we are going to be filling in the character name, what makes the reader root for them, and what are some things that they struggle with. So please feel free to use like a character that's like your original character, or like a character that you're trying to workshop or anything for use at this workshop. All right, I'm going to zoom out here so that we can see. And then I'm going to turn on the timer.
Starting that timer.
Ta-da! All right. It is a 5-minute timer. Give it some thought. Think about it. Might need to put on some stream-friendly jams for
Could do that.
y'all.
Yeah. Some chill writing music.
Chill writing music. Indeed. I can make that happen for you. And yeah, if you all have any questions, feel free to like put them in the chat because I can read them. Ooh, good question. Someone was asking, how do you write a promise? We're going to get to that in the next one.
Yeah.
But if you're already done writing your character, do you have another character that you want to flesh out? Because we're going to be writing a story about them. So if you want to write a story about 2 characters, then you can do the same thing for another character. Something I wanted to mention also is that if you're stumped, looking at people that you admire, especially people who you're close to, like your friends or family members, can be very helpful. Sometimes we don't understand our own strengths and weaknesses, and so it can be hard to look at that inside of ourselves. And so looking at people who are your friends or people that you say, oh, that person's really good at that, you can easily see their strengths and weaknesses because you're outside of them. Oh no. If you lost your square.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Apologies to everyone. I see that the mural controls have been given some folks some grief.
Yeah. You got it. I think you got your square back, but excellent. Awesome.
About a minute left.
Yep. Oh man, y'all are fast. Excellent.
All right.
So we're going to move on from character development. Now we're going to move on to payoffs and promises. So a payoff is going to be something that you want to reach at the end of your story, or something that like you want a character to reach. It could be a reveal. It could be some sort of like climactic thing that happens. It could even be something where it's like, this character was always hoping for some mac and cheese. And then like the payoff is like they get some mac and cheese. And that might not be the end of the story, but it's simply a fulfillment of a wish.
Of course, I want to mention, because this is Fujokan, a pretty common thing in, fanfic or BL is for the biggest payoff to be releasing some sexual tension somehow.
Yes.
And for the promises along the way to be establishing that sexual tension.
Yeah. So that's a good like example of that. So promises without any sort of payoff, I will warn you against that. It will frustrate your readers. Actually, I was just studying a writing class by Malcolm Gladwell, and apparently he really loves making promises with no payoffs. So there are some writers who are like, haha, fuck you. I'm going to make a bunch of promises with no payoffs. Do we release the sexual tension in the mac and cheese or on it? I don't know. And really, it's like a preference, I think.
Yeah.
I think if you stuck your dick in mac and cheese, then it would be really painful.
I
can't believe I said that on air. So let me give you an example of a promise without a payoff. So for those of you who know him or love him, this is Tommy Wiseau's The Room, which is a film that is legendary for making many, many promises with very little payoff.
Yeah. It's just a bad movie, y'all.
But
anyway,
here's an example of a promise that has no payoff. Nowhere after this we will be talking about any of the stuff that this lady talks about.
Oh, that jerk Harold. He wants me to give him a share of my house. That house belongs to me. He has no rights. I'm not giving him a penny. Who does he think he is?
He's your brother.
He is always bugging me about my house. 15 years ago, we agreed that house belongs to me. Now the value of the house is going up and he's seeing dollar signs. Everything goes wrong at once. Nobody wants to help me, and I'm dying.
You're not dying, Mom.
I got the results of the test back. I definitely have breast cancer.
So
let's cancel that autoplay before it goes.
That's right. I want to call attention to some of the promises that were made there. So she has a brother named Harold, which we never meet. Harold and her are in a dispute about a house, and the house dispute never gets resolved or never mentioned again. She says, nobody is willing to help me, but there's no reference of any past like bad blood or anything like that. So that's a promise to say, like, we're going to get into that bad blood, but nothing happens there. And this is a very minor character. I just want to make sure everyone's clear. And then the last one, and the most famous one, is she says, I definitely have breast cancer. And they never mention it ever again.
Even better, it's I am dying. I definitely have breast cancer, which notably is a very treatable cancer. Does not often result in death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So all of that to say, I've just given you some examples of what promises look like. So some conflict, some tension, an introduction of a mysterious character, some kind of like event that happens that we think like there's going to be some sort of emotional resolution to, and then the payoffs are going to be the resolution to that. So I'm going to set the timer. Let's do 8 minutes.
Do an 8.
I'm going to set that timer for 8 minutes. And what you're going to do is 4 minutes on the promises and 4 minutes on the payoffs. If you have multiple promises, that's great. If you have multiple payoffs, that's great. Do your best within this time to think about promises within your story that you want to give to the character. Is it sexual tension? Is it mac and cheese?
Yeah.
What is it?
One more hint on that. We've been mentioning it throughout. A good way to think about this while you're writing is actually to start with the payoff first and then reverse engineer the promise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like when you're writing fan fiction, you're like, I want to see the two of those get in it, right? And that's the payoff. So then what's the promise for that when you're thinking about that?
You're way backwards.
Okay. Gonna start those sweet tunes again.
Yeah.
I wish I had like an oh hi Mark like chill step. Countdown to everyone frantically Googling the room fanfic on AO3. I am after this panel. I looked for the room on AO3 and there's only one fan fiction. Are you serious? We're all such talented people in a writing workshop right now.
Yeah.
And that's when it like veered off the rails and I went to go write the room fanfic.
Yeah.
Yeah, this part is not easy. You'll have to think a little bit about it. I love it. I'm richer knowing that it's a werewolf fanfic. Is it in the Omegaverse, though? That's the question that I want to know. Okay. How's everybody doing on time? Oh, let me. I know for some of y'all this might be a new tool / like a new way of thinking, so it's okay. And I should mention, like, I'm never going to zoom in like enough for everybody to like read the stuff. If you want us to, we'll be going through like a feedback section. If you want us to give feedback, you can like, well, what can you do? Maybe you can get a little star. It's such a small star. You can put a star on your work if you're okay with sharing with people. If not, feel free not to. I'll put the star up near exercise 2. Oh, thanks for the tutorial mural.
All right, this is your 1 minute warning.
We're going to build out things a little bit more, like get things a little bit more, how do I say, finessed or refined before we do the feedback stuff. So,
yeah.
nice. All right. 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! All right. So we're going to hop over back to slides just for a bit here. Take a breather. Good job, everyone.
Yeah.
We're going to get back to refining soon. Let me turn off the smooth jams.
Chill writing music.
Chill writing music.
Right.
We're going to go into the unchill lecture.
It's unchill lecture time, everyone!
It's so intense.
Okay.
Ready, take it down, man.
Take it down. Right. This is about...
We are on exercise 2 now.
Exercise 2. We're going to talk about adding choice to your games. Oh. Next slide. How do I next slide? Okay. So this is kind of the secret sauce of working in an interactive medium, is that if this were just a regular book and people read from start to finish, you don't have a lot of extra opportunity to rope the player in, or rope the reader in. And that's something that you can do a little bit with giving them choices to more heavily invest themselves in the story. So, how do we make our player more invested in our story? We can give them choices that widen the possibilities. This is an example from a story CJ wrote. That's based on Little Red Riding Hood, but it's a twist on that where... Do you want to explain?
Sure. Yeah. It's a twist on Little Red Riding Hood where you go into the woods and you meet a wolf, but something is not as it seems. And I don't want to spoil the ending. There are three endings. But you meet your grandmother, and your grandmother isn't who she says she is either. So it's a little bit occult horror-y. It's a little bit like magic-y type thing. But yeah. And this is the story essentially from start to finish. There's like one block before this that's like the introduction. Mm-hmm. But basically, like, this story seems very linear if you look at it from a bird's eye view. But if you are playing it, you're actually experiencing a lot of possibility. So the middle part, right in the middle right here, that says like wolf and everything, this is a series of dialogue options in which you're talking to the wolf about your grandmother and how how the wolf knows your grandmother. And it is very interactive by player standards, and also interactive by the fact that like you do need to play the game 4 times. I'm sorry, 4 times to get like all of the endings.
Yeah.
So, but you don't necessarily have to give players that much choice in order for them to feel like this is a world where a lot of possibilities can happen.
Yeah. So we're going to jump back to Mural for a bit.
Yep. You boop. Back to Mural. Oh yes, I can summon everybody to exercise 2. So we are right here in exercise 2. So let's talk about adding development and results to your story.
We're on exercise 3 ?
Nope, we're on exercise 2. We've done the promises and payoffs, and now we have to do development and results.
We sure do. All right. So we're going to take 10 minutes to flesh out your story a little bit more. You know what the promise is. You know what the payoff you want to get to is. What's all the stuff that needs to happen in between?
This is the tough stuff.
Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily have to follow totally linearly. This is where we can start thinking about some different branches. We'll get to that more in exercise 3. But what happens there? And then also, after the payoff, what do you want the ending to be? Because the payoff is itself not necessarily an ending, or not necessarily a result.
Right. And by the way, if y'all want to put a star, like a little star icon on your board, the next, like, exercise 4 is about feedback. And so we'll be doing feedback. We can use our own, but if you want feedback, like, we'll show you how we give feedback and give feedback on your board.
Yes.
Okay. For sake of time, is it okay if we do 5 minutes?
Let's do 5.
All right, because I do
We
want
have
y'all
more
to
exercise to get to.
Yes, I do want to get you all to the exercise 3 and 4. All right, we're gonna start the timer now. So the development is going to be your linking action between the promise and the payoff. I find these especially hard to write because there's no good way of writing them. You just either have to increase the tension, or you have to say like, okay, there's also an alternate journey that they're going to go on that also makes more promises. Release them. For anybody who is like, I already got this on lockdown, like I have my development, I have my results, consider the next exercise is going to be about making multiple choices and branching choices. So you get to decide where you want to branch off in your story. So think about that in this time as well. Uh-oh. Hold on a sec. Did that work, Raisa?
This is on the pencil tool, maybe.
Yes. If you want to add a star, you can go here to icons, and then you can search star, and then you can drag and drop a little star. Let's see. Yeah, usually if I'm unsure what to write, I will start writing some development. Like I'll just start brainstorming like possible development things that'll link the promise to the payoff. So for instance, in the mac and cheese like example of somebody who really wants to eat mac and cheese, maybe the promise is the mac and cheese, but maybe they have to maybe they're on a diet and they have to in one day burn 1,600 calories or something in order to eat that mac and cheese. So now they're going to go on a quest to like figure out the sport that can pack the most punch in so that they can finally eat their mac and cheese.
Yeah. All right, CJ. Raisa has the pencil tool.
Oh no!
I think Raisa, if you look on the left, you should be able to find this one for text. It looks like a little sticky.
Yeah.
And if you double click somewhere, you can type.
Yes. Okay. I can help I can help explain on the
not stuck anymore.
Exercise. So let me show you an example of something that we wrote that might be helpful to you. So we have two characters here that are going through a storyline. And this is on the far right-hand side, the upper right-hand side of the screen. So a promise and a payoff might be the two of them are intrigued with one another. So our two main characters are intrigued with each other, and they work up the like courage to kiss or to like interact in some sort of like sexy way, right? And the development to that will be, yes, we are at exercise 2, not exercise 3. I'm sorry, I should have, but yes, the developing like action to that is that they get thrown together multiple times. Maybe there's like a moonlit night, the feelings, feeling right, and then the payoff happens. And then the result of that payoff is something. But yes, we're going to get to exercise 3.
All right. That's about our time for exercise 2.
Okay.
How'd it go, everyone?
Yeah.
I know we're very, very rushed on time.
Yes. So actually, this will probably be a good thing for us to move on to exercise 3 because this is building out the story more. So for anybody who wasn't able to get any like development or results in their story, first take a look at the template that I'm showing you here. And also, if you are, if you don't didn't have the time to do that, you can do this in exercise 3 now too.
Don't worry, because exercise 3 is related. Yes.
Exercise 3 is related. It's all related. It's all related. It all builds up on top of each other. Okie dokie. All right. So what I'm going to show you now is we are going to add in player investment through choice. So this is the exercise 3 where we start splitting the story into multiple pieces. So up until now, you have a linear story, which has a promise, development, a payoff, and a result. I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit more here. Whoa, way too much. All right. So this is the linear story that has the promise, development, payoff, and result. One way of branching into storylines is you have a promise, a development, and then based on a character's choice, you could have 3 different types of payoffs and 3 different types of results. So this is going to result in multiple endings. This is a multiple ending type of branching. And it typically takes place towards the end. Another type of format is that you still have multiple payoffs, but 2 of those payoffs go to one result, and one of the payoffs goes to an entirely different result. This could also be seen as kind of like a secret garden path, so like a secret ending. Let's say that like all of the endings go towards one sort of neutral ending, and then you have one best ending. That could be a format for this. And then another format is that you keep the promises, you keep the payoffs, but you have very different development that happens in response to the promises. So you can add choice anywhere into your narrative, but we are going to experiment with this framework, the multiple ending framework, where you have multiple payoffs to a singular promise. And those payoffs are going to result in 3 different things. Yeah, format C is the BioWare one. And so like, that being said, like, here's some examples of like some payoffs. So there is, one of the payoffs is going to be like you and the main character and the love of their life get together. And it's very exciting. It's very happy, like wedding bells or whatever. The love of, you confess to the love of your life. The protagonist confesses to the love of their life. And the love of their life says, nope, sorry, I already have a boyfriend. That's going to result in a different result. And then maybe a last payoff could be, the protagonist is initially interested in the love of their life, but then the love of their life grows really strong feelings for them, turns into a stalker, and then the protag's like, whoa, okay, I thought we had a good thing going, but this is not working for me. So they don't necessarily have to, they have to relate to the same promise. So the promise will always be the same. So if the promise for in this case is like you have 2 characters and they might date, or like 2 characters are interested in each other, that would be a promise. Another promise would be like a person is struggling with a cancer diagnosis. You know, a payoff for that, and this is, I believe, or this is a bit dark, but like, you know, a payoff from that could be they fight and they win against cancer, or like that the cancer goes into remission. I guess there is no winning in this case, but like the cancer goes into remission, the cancer doesn't go into remission, or there's some, you know, different third option.
Yeah, a really good. I had a thought and I lost it. Hold on a sec.
Okay.
I was going to say a really common way of very explicitly making a promise, and this is a very Broadway way of making a promise, is you have your characters sing a song about their dream.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's at the beginning of every Broadway show. So, you
I
know.
want to be where the people are.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Yep. And that can set up a lot of things for the audience to expect. What would be a good but non-winning payoff in a battle royale murder game? I think a good but non-winning payoff would be that the protagonist survives, but they have to watch their friends die. It's not winning, but it is theoretically good. I guess another possibility might be something like, yeah. Oh, I was going to say, yeah, I don't know. In this case, winning might also be something like it's not actually playing into the game. It could be that they find another participant. They find the participant that's actually within the game who is the killer and seduce them. That's another good and also not winning the game.
So, shall we get into the writing again?
Yes.
I know we still have our focus music on, so.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Good job, focus music.
What we're going to be doing is, I think, let's make this another. I feel like when we go on too long, it ends up being like we sort of.
Fair enough. Let's go another 5.
Yeah, let's go another 5. So I'm going to have y'all for the next 5 minutes go through format A, and format A should be on your templates. Now, if you're like, fuck format A, I want to do format C. That's fine. Like nobody's controlling.
More power to you.
More power to you. You use the templates how you want. You see them. If they're helpful to you, then use them. If not, just like expand your story out.
You can make a flowchart that's completely different too.
That's right. Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to start the timer now.
Yep.
And also, if you're like, I have this scenario and I can't think of anything, feel free to put it in the chat. And like, we as a group community can help you brainstorm that.
Got a question about the boxes. Yeah, we're going to use the green boxes for different payoffs and the purple boxes for different results. You can change the colors too, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That is totally fine. Do you want us to check out your board, or do you just want to give us the premise and we can give you brainstorming? I seem to find that if all else fails, just like put a time loop in it. Like the player dies and then they
Fun too. Yeah.
They go back in time and replay the entire thing.
Yeah.
Or if all else fails, add dinosaurs and just see what happens. Okay. I'm gonna check out y'all's boards.
Check it out.
There we go. Oh, nice. Yeah. So, to yours, RBC, like one of the things that your character struggles with is being shy or like hiding behind um, his sister. So, like, one possible like alternate payoff could be like he tries to assert independence, but his sister pulls him back in. There's some kind of like conflict where, you know, she pulls him back in or convinces him that that's not actually like the future he wants to pursue. Um, Another could be that um, he's all I'm thinking are sad endings. But like, yeah, too shy to admit love.
Yeah.
Could be that like he initially like successfully admits love, but something happens to his partner. Maybe some challenge happens, or he gets pulled away for a while, and then he doesn't know what to do with him or like with himself. I'm bad at coming up with bad ends that don't involve murder. Well, I mean, that's one choice. I was going to say, I think, I personally think a good way of coming up with bad endings is having people succumb to their demons. So something that they struggle at, they just never get good at, or something that they struggle at impedes them from getting the ultimate goal. Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay.
Ooh, extra time.
I think I'm going to give us a little bit more time for this because I can see that people are
Everybody's making good progress.
thinking on it. Yeah.
That's a
So
good thing.
let's do another 5.
Okay. We check out that one.
Yeah.
Hippie's got a star.
Oh my goodness. Ah, Token Rambu's success in making people fall in love with ancient swords, but instead it's species that need help, endangered
I love
species.
That. That's cool.
Yes, excellent. Yeah, I also would love to see like some conflict in the black market, you know, because like in animal conservation, there are real poachers and there are real like people who are either like actively or not actively trying to destroy these beautiful creatures.
Yeah.
So you get in a fight with a poacher or something like that. You save your boyfriend's life. Yeah. So Pochi, about like like making the endings or the natural disaster interesting. Especially with natural disasters, people are trapped alone with like their feelings, and I think that not just the survive or a death, it also could be survive but with some serious scars that a character never recovers from, or survive with like some kind of psychological thing intact. But I'm curious, especially like uh, talking about like survival of natural disasters, reading accounts of people who survived natural disasters before they like one of the accounts I read tended to hyperfixate on certain aspects of their life that had just like so changed dramatically that like it could not ever be brought back again. And so you might want to zoom in a little bit on not just the natural disaster, but like in what way did the character's life change and how is that affecting them emotionally? Grace, I'm gonna come find you. Let me see. Oops. For some reason. I too am having trouble. Okay. Cool. Excellent. There you go. Ah, okay. Oh, okay. Yours is more like Danganronpa, like queer slasher. Here's some interesting if you've played any of the Nonary games or Danganronpa games or like that sort of thing, like different elements of different weapons can be used in like weird ways. So for instance, like using a mace, like the chain of a mace as a garrote. So like it turns into sort of like a murder mystery type thing, or like something like that where you like use a weapon in a really unexpected way. Could be a way of like making the weapons more interesting, or like talking about character death with weapons. Okay.
All right.
We're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
Mabbies, you want to talk about the takeaways from exercise 3?
I do. So I wanted to mention, we talked about promise and payoff a lot. We mentioned earlier in the workshop that promise and payoffs are things that you can glue together, right? It's not just that every story has exactly one promise and exactly one payoff. And that's a pretty neat concept because, I think as compared to this model of like promise and then development and then payoff and then result, a little bit more flexible than like exposition, rising action, climax, falling action. They're kind of the same, they're kind of not. I don't know what else to say about it. The other thing I wanted to mention that's cool about visual novels and interactive works and whatnot, all of them kind of have this extra promise built in that's like, this game can be played multiple times, and sometimes you know more on your second playthrough than you did on your first.
Right. You know something that a character told you in confidence that you can use later with another character. I think that Doki Doki Literature Club really takes the like replayability aspect of it and kind of turns it on its head.
Yeah.
And so even then, like, the promise is that you get to date people, and the promise is that there's replayability. I'm going to try to say this without spoilers, but Doki Doki Literature Club does some weird things with replayability and some weird things with this expectation around the fact that you are wanting to date these characters. So to me, that's a very inspirational work that takes the visual novel genre built-in promises of replayability and dating and kind of makes you expect different things. I wanted to reiterate this because we haven't had a takeaway slide in a while, which is that in order to increase the player's level of investment, you can use choice to draw the player in. It's not the only thing, but it is something that's very meaningful in visual novels and interactive fiction. Yes, and like the gameplay is also very meta too. Gameplay is another way of increasing a player's level of investment too. But sometimes, especially with visual novels, you have very limited gameplay. You're just clicking. But you can use gameplay, mini games, that sort of thing. Using choices to introduce alternative payoffs, and a basic story flow has promise, development, payoff, and the result. That's a linear flow. but you can add in alternative payoffs, alternative results, alternative developments, et cetera, to add in choice. Now, when I first started out, I wanted to put choice everywhere. And I recommend that you just do a couple and start making very small games with a few sort of like minimal choices and then expand it out from there, because I have in the past wrote myself into a box where I just expanded on this universe and I didn't know what was happening. And I got really sort of bogged down with the amount of choice I was giving the players and had like 20 different multiple endings.
You got to write a lot more story that way.
Yeah. So start really, really small, really small. Choices can affect just the development. So you don't necessarily have to have multiple endings, but you can affect just the development and can do a linear storyline that way. But impactful choices can affect the payoff and result. So non-impactful choices are affecting the way the characters feel about each other, but not the ultimate end of the game. And impactful choices affect the actual ending of the game. Cool. Neato. All right. So question. We have this sort of time built in for break, but we can move on to like feedback if y'all are interested in getting feedback on your stories. Feel free to just say stuff in the chat of whether or not you want to take like a 5-minute break and break in or revise your stuff, or if you just want to go on to feedback.
I'm going to actually say chat's on slow mode, so we might not be able to get a very representative vote here. Let's take a 2-minute break. It's not going to throw off our schedule too terribly.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So let's take a 2-minute break. I'm going to set that timer for 2. And when we come back, we are going to user test, walk you through user testing, which is exercise 4 and the final exercise. All right, starting that timer, 2 minutes.
Cool.
Okay. No worries. It's a very like thinking heavy. Yeah. That is not uncommon, having stuff in your head and then nothing coming out to write and type. I will say that like I used to really be in my head about my own stories, but then I just started setting a word limit for myself and just saying like, I need to have this word limit like every day. And I would write whatever came to mind at that like point in time. It was really intense, but really good practice for me to like just commit whatever the ideas that I had were to paper. Oh yeah. I got you, Vio. I've never considered interactive storytelling before. Yeah, like I also have things that have like very specific endings, and for those I probably would, just have a straightforward storytelling device. But at the same time, like I just really enjoy having interactions with players. Like I really enjoy interacting with people. It's just a fun thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's get back to it.
Coming back around. Okay. Y'all, we're in it. It's 15 minutes left. We are going to we're gonna do it. We're gonna get through it. Okay. So we're gonna take a few minutes and we're going to do feedback. I'm gonna sit down. And so how we're gonna do feedback is we are going to focus on the following things. we are going to focus on if the story made sense. Does the payoff relieve the tension set by the promise? And what our reaction to the story is. So I'm not going to like laugh at anybody's ideas. I'm not going to say that's a silly concept, because I think all concepts are great, and like all ideas are like generally really interesting. I just am looking for the things of like what connects to what and what makes sense. So I'm going to go around and pick some people who have stars on their boards, and we're going to go through and do some feedback, Mabby's and I'm.
Yeah.
And then for people who are getting the feedback, some tips and pointers for you is reflect on that feedback, even if it doesn't seem relevant at first, because sometimes you might be readers might be noticing something that you're not noticing. We can't do this in this session, but if you're talking with a friend, ask questions about why your players made the choices that they made. And don't say that your players or readers are doing it wrong, because there's no wrong way to do a video game.
This is a very good GM skill. If any of you do like tabletop role-playing games, your players will always surprise you and very much throw off your plans.
Yeah.
Just roll with it. It's more fun that way.
Yeah. When I was a young GM, I really, really, really wanted my players to meet the final boss that I had like scoped out and everything in the room. And instead, I believe they found some like weed type substance, threw it into the room, and smoked out the main big boss, to the point where the big boss was like, I don't want to fight anymore. Just be chill.
Yep.
Anyway, the point is they'll always surprise you. Yes. I will also say how to user test when you are like user testing other people is you read aloud for another person. You guide them through like your GM for a role-playing game. You can also build a paper prototype, or just stuff like this, like just a story flow. It doesn't have to be code. You can build an interactive prototype, which we'll talk about like stuff that you commit to code. You don't have to do that for the very initial like story flow. Okay, who has a star? Who has a star? I want to see. Ooh, okay. Let's do Yuki's.
All right.
I'm going to start with the character. I apologize if I mispronounced their name. Eli. They try to make all things calm and peaceful, and they're people-pleasing and second-guessing. So the promise here is that we're promising to let go of things and let things happen no matter how bad or good. Mm-hmm. So just letting go. Misunderstandings, emotional blow-ups happen, which is hard to let go from. They get rejected by their friends because of their character being nosy. And as a result, because they couldn't leave them alone and think for herself, she became confused and chose to continue down that road just to see those other people happy rather than herself. Or her friends can't seem to forget and move on from problems that aren't their own and get swallowed up. Or they close a chapter of their lives that has the people she wants to be good for. And with enough courage, she took that one step to looking around only her. It's only a step now, but it's a step learning regardless. So if you were playing this game, Matt, which choice would you choose?
I mean, I guess knowing the whole... Now that I've seen the whole progression, I feel like the final ending, that the result at the bottom, has very satisfying character growth to me.
Yeah. But had you not read the results, would you have done anything with like the misunderstanding or emotional blow up?
Yeah, I feel like to me the middle option is the most personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for like I agree that like I can really relate to the character and then also to the story as well. So like from an emotional satisfaction perspective, I think the results or the endings are really satisfying. I really want to know about like the cost of what does it cost someone not to let go of things. Like, I think within the promise, maybe I want some other promise of like they making like a promise to themselves in the mirror or something like that, being like, okay, today's the day, I'm gonna live for me, like I'm gonna do this life right, and like have that sort of like tension brought up. I want the promise to be built up a little bit higher than what it currently is right now. But I feel like overall, from a like emotional aspect, I could see some like tear jerking happening at actually both endings, honestly.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Yuki, for submitting yourself to feedback. That was very brave of you.
Yeah.
And I will move on to another person. Let's see, who haven't I? There we go. Mamiko. All right. I'm going to read Mamiko's story. This time I'm not going to give you the results. Just
okay.
All right.
I'm gonna look over here.
So the character is Zero. He continues to fight even though he has hardships, and he struggles with being seen as equal. Like a lot of people see him as weak. So he's got maybe some kind of like complex or difficulty with that.
Okay.
The promise is that he's going to make a friend today. He gets stuck with someone else in the building, and you can choose either to trust the other person, not to trust them enough, no trust, or develops trust and feelings.
Ooh. I feel like the choice I would make is just regular trust, not trust and feelings.
Okay, just regular trust.
We'll go with the regular trust.
They become great friends afterwards.
Yeah. Aw. Make good friends.
Nice. Yeah. I think that here's the part I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that maybe the development is the part that like overall you have a solid like storyline, but I think it's the development part that I could see maybe like bringing it up a little bit. When I thought Zero, I thought the nonary games, to be honest. So that I was like, gets trapped with someone in the building in a killing game.
Oh.
But it doesn't necessarily need to be that.
Right.
But I do like the idea of having like a trust fall exercise or like something that pulls the other person into a is it the game theory thing? The trust or deny, like it's a prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah.
So like, if you haven't heard of the prisoner's dilemma, it's an interesting dilemma about whether you trust someone even though you can't actually see them. And it's someone maybe that you don't have a lot of like reason to trust, or like they haven't shown you any reason to trust or not trust. It's just sort of a neutral feeling. So do you trust or not trust that person?
Yeah. I would, if I had to explain what makes it a prisoner's dilemma, both people have more to gain by betraying each other than they do by trusting each other.
Yes. Yeah. This could, I was thinking to myself, the prisoner's dilemma could help with like upping the ante of this. Cool. All right. I think we have time for one last person.
Okay.
Ooh, who's it going to be? Actually, Mabby's, you get to pick.
I get to pick.
Who's our star?
All right.
I suppose you can read it to me.
Who have we already picked?
Mamiko and Yuki.
Mamiko and Yuki. All right. I'm going to pick... Veronica.
Okay. I'm listening.
Okay. Our character is Leon Brackshaw. They're growing in self-esteem and are bad at speaking their mind and being able to stand up for others.
Mhm.
So, Leon and their love interest become lovers. Leon becomes confident and sexier when successfully helping their partner with their struggles. So now we have a choice.
Okay.
Leon and their love interest fall deeply in love, or Leon's love is rejected, or Leon's love interest dies in a terrorist attack.
Oh my god. Well, how could I not choose the like falling in love deeper? Because if he gets sexier when he helps people, like I'm imagining that like, you know, his pecs just like burst out of like his clothing every time he helps a person. Right? So like, how could you not fall deeply in love with that?
Good point. Good point.
Okay, what's the result?
The result there is bedtime scene, happily ever after.
Hey.
Better and stronger.
Excellent. I also wanted to say thank you, Mamiko, for sharing as well. It is like, it's really hard to share your writing. And thank you, Veronica, for sharing your writing as well. I probably misread the sexier part, or I misinterpreted the sexier part as like physically sexier, but I imagine it's like confident is sexy. I want to know more about the partner too. I think that was a part that I was curious about, is like what motivates the partner as well. Like what do they find about Leon that's like sexy? What's that reason behind them being, you know, I mean, if the pecs are bursting through the chest every time they help someone, that's also great. Like you can run with that too.
I think CJ just made that part up, but
I did make up that
it
part.
could be canon.
It could be canon. I should have done the Leon's love interest is rejected. That's my favorite kind.
Yeah.
Is Leon becomes mad stalker of love interests, like who, you know, killer or no, like of the love interest. That's like my favorite type. Man.
I love the knife flicker type.
I do love the knife flicker types. Yeah, it's so yeah, I think I also like the interesting part about this one is I like the fact that they're like they start off as lovers and it's about the confession rather than the like initial sort of like you know, meet cute kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. And I also would want to see like after this, I'm like, okay, but what's the next promise? Like, what's the next, like, I don't want the story to be over. So I feel like that's another thing is like, if you wanted to put this, like, what if the game was actually about Leon being a stalker and you started like the first 5 minutes of the game or just basically this, and then the rest of it just follows like one of these three, you know, long-term formats. Anyway, thank you very much, Veronica, for sharing. And through this like kind of process is how you get new ideas, is how you like talk to people, is how you make the story better. And like asking people about their sort of like emotional reaction to stuff can really be helpful. Yeah. So
you'll always learn new things by showing your story to new people. So it's a really great way to improve, come up with new ideas, revise, etc.
Yeah.
You don't need to build out a fancy code prototype thing to be able to test your stories. It's very much something you can read it out to somebody. You could even write it out on paper and do a choose your own adventure kind of thing, but you know, that's a good way to test.
Yep. And the more you tweak it, the better it will be. Not right, you know, Terranova was not something that we wrote like bam in, you know, one sitting. Even though people can play it in one sitting, it took 3 years to develop. And
sure did.
Those 3 years were us like workshopping it and talking to other people and like, you know, being really honest about like, I'm going to show you a love scene that I'm really embarrassed to write about, but here it is. Which is part of the reason why mad props to the star people, also mad props to the not star people, because if you're not ready, you're not ready. That's okay. So we are coming at the end of our time, but I heard from the mod that we have, like, there's nothing after this. So
Yes.
we have a little bit of time.
We're going to probably stick around a little longer. The room's going to be open a little bit longer, but if y'all have things you need to go do them.
Yeah. Look at this link poop. We didn't really get to talking about all of these this link stuff. But I wanted to give a shout out to tools that we use to build interactive fiction and visual novel.
Yeah.
So Twine is like my main bread and butter. I love Twine, and these are the things that you can use to build a game. So Twine is basically text-based. None of these are require you to know coding in like a really sort of deep degree. I would say that maybe RenPy has the most like coding out of all three of these. Twine has the most like easy to use interface, hands down. And there's a lot of good documentation. All of them are available for free. So if you wanted to download them and just like try them out. Somebody mentioned in the comments that Yowie Jam was happening. That is totally an awesome way of getting into one of these things, is just saying like, I'm going to build a game in a month. So like, let's just do it. Right. That's actually how Nabbies and I got our start, was through doing 48-hour game jams. And I realize I'm
talking about the music. All right.
There we go. I'm going to pause it. But yes, Yuki, it's totally okay to use this template. Don't like, I can like screenshot, or you can just like, copy and paste from it or whatever. Like the link will be open for y'all. So yeah, free to download at Twinery. Make Your Own Twine Games is is a book by Anna Anthropy. It's really, really good. It's really accessible. RenPy, it's free to download at RenPy. RenPy's documentation is really good. So just read it on their website. Fungus is of what Mabby's called.
I called it mushroom.
Mushroom.
And CJ was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I'm sorry, I mean fungus, the thing for Unity.
And it is free to download at the Unity Asset Store, and it has an entire Udemy free course that you can look at for tutorial videos for Fungus. So I personally have not used Fungus. I've only used Twine and RenPy, but again, it's using Unity, so you can use some more like powerful sort of Unity stuff. Cool. So that is it for the like tools that you can use. Mod, is it okay if like we open it up maybe for like a couple of minutes to like Q&A stuff? I can show you like the skeletons of games that we've made and stuff.
Excellent.
Okay, cool.
We got green light.
All right, neato. So yeah, if anybody has like questions or like, can I see this, or what is hard for you, or like really just like, don't give me softballs. Don't give us softballs. Like we can handle the tough stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
CJ, do you have your Twine up? And can you show people Costume Panic?
I can totally show you Costume Panic.
If you feel like talking about it. I don't know.
So this is what Twine looks like. I have 7 stories. I have adult school, which you should forget about that immediately. I'm not ready to show that. This was the beginning of Terranova.
Yeah.
And the beginning of Terranova. That was the original prototype.
It was.
Anywho, so this is a game that I built in a month. It was insane because I'm a little insane. It has like 8 endings. It's very cool. But this is what Twine looks like. What's the best way to organize all the characters? I personally think Post-it notes. So I use a lot of like digital whiteboarding tools like Mural, like we just used, to like organize all of the characters in a way that makes sense. I also have a Google Drive that has like the character intros and their motivations and stuff like that, like one character per, like one Google Doc per thing. And I have it in like one big Google Drive that So yeah, Google Drive and I guess like whiteboarding, I would say.
Yeah, a mix of we done kind of a mix of analog tools and digital tools. Sometimes I like being analog. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you've got space and materials and whatever to do it, can be nice. But anyway,
any tips or suggestions for writing interesting dialogue or dialogue-heavy stories? Yes.
we wrote one of those.
We did. Yes, Terranova is a very dialogue-heavy story. So there is a famous cartoonist by the name of Scott McCloud, and he talks about how the amount of time that your readers spend with your work is the amount of time that they perceive is happening in the world. So, for instance, if a reader is spending a really long time reading a sentence, they're going to assume that the amount of time the characters are spending together is quite long. I tend to write a lot of like long dialogue sentences. And so a learning that I had in Terranova is just like make it punchier, punchier. It doesn't have to be like, oh, he said his eyes turning towards the light. It's just like, oh, what do you mean? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to be as descriptive as you might think you need to be.
So another tip I was going to mention on dialogue writing, and this is also something we used a lot for Terranova, if you have another person that you're co-writing with, you can take one character, they can take one character, and you can ping pong ideas off each other.
Yeah.
It's a great way to make, I don't know, I think more natural sounding dialogue that's like stays in character.
Yeah. I'm terrible at setting. Are there any tips to improve setting skills? Yes. In fact, one of my favorite things to do is to look at world building prompts and try to build a world from some of like the world building prompts or just questions about the world. I myself am also not super great at like setting stuff. And so I would have these things where I would introduce contradictions that weren't supposed to like be, and then I would have to go and I'd try to interview myself. So if I saw contradictions in my work, I'd be like, okay, CJ, what is it that this person is trying to accomplish? What's preventing them from accomplishing this goal? Why is it that people have, this particular thing? And I knew that I couldn't write everything in Terranova, but I tried the best that I could. But yeah, starting off with these and then also doing an interview like back and forth style between you and yourself, basically, if stuff starts not making sense, is like writing down a list of questions of like, this doesn't make sense. Why doesn't it make sense? We have to go through this. That was a painful thing for me to learn because I'm definitely very character driven as opposed to setting driven, but settings actually do I don't know, affect characters.
Yeah, they're part of the whole world and whole experience.
So yeah. I did want to plug at the very end our game. It is, as I said, it's a love letter to the early 2000s and Fujoshi and like fangirl, like live journal role play stuff online. If y'all are interested in that at all, feel free to check it out on itch or on Steam. They are both on sale. And we've heard a lot of people say that they cried playing Terranova. So just get out the like, we're really thankful for the people who do who have played Terranova and really loved it. So yeah, it's been really fun.
I also have a personal request on that note, which is if any of y'all play Terranova, either on itch or on Steam, but especially on Steam, and if you feel like writing us a review, that would be really cool. We read all our reviews and they mean a lot, and they also help other people on Steam find our game.
Yeah, y'all gonna make me cry. Really, I really am happy about that. So yes, thank you everyone for attending our workshop. This has been Writing Interactive Stories That Pack a Punch. I'm CJ.
No, I'm Mabby.
And we wish you a very, very, very good night. Feel free to continue to access the link, share or like download it to wherever you need to. Like, just keep writing stories and share them with us.
Yeah. One final thing before we sign off. On the Fujokon Discord, I'm Mabbies. If you want to talk to me,
I'm CJ.
I would love to talk to you on Discord. And CJ, are you CJ on Discord?
Yeah, just CJ.
Just CJ. Yep. We'll see you around. Enjoy the rest of your con.
Take care. Good night, y'all.